BT Group has become the first international telecom company to be granted licenses to expand its business in China. Is this the breakthrough in trade and telecom tensions that both sides need? And a British newspaper made waves after publishing a report that claims a Chinese Olympic swimmer so-called abused his anti-doping testers. What's the other side of the story? Welcome to The Point, a news opinion show coming to you from Beijing. I'm Li Xin. A British telecom giant will be the first international company to provide internet connection services directly to clients in China. BT already has operations in China, but has been granted 2 new licenses, a domestic IP VPN license and a nationwide Internet Service Provider or ISP license. Under these licenses, it will be able to provide services to Chinese clients directly and to foreign clients here in China and bill in the Chinese currency, the renminbi. This also puts China's state-owned companies in direct competition with an outsider. What does it mean for BT and other international players? What does it mean for Chinese state-owned telecom giants and internet users? Joining me in the Beijing studio is Sitao, chief economist at Deloitte China. From Southampton, Mike Bastin, senior lecturer at the University of Southampton. And from Geneva, Wallace Cheng, researcher at the German Development Institute. Gentlemen, welcome to The Point. Now, Bas Berger, the chief executive of BT Global Services, said the new licenses will allow BT to significantly simplify the process of delivering connectivity to Chinese customers. He says it is what our customers expect from us, and we are very grateful for the opportunity to do this as of today. So let me go to Sitao first. First of all, what kind of license are these, the IPVPN and ISP licenses? What do they do? What do they allow BT to do in China?
Well, these 2 licenses until today were only issues to domestic subcontractors of 3 giants. Now, BT...
The 3 giants, you mean China Telecom,
yes.
China Unicom and China Mobile.
Exactly.
The three biggest state-owned telecom companies in China.
Exactly. So now BT can have the same access as all these domestic subcontractors in working with the 3 giant telco companies. In theory, that means the company can not only provide services to foreign enterprises, as it has been doing so, it can also provide services to domestic companies and consumers. But I want to stress, in theory.
Okay. Also, I understand they will also be able to provide services to Chinese multinational companies. That is also what I understand, which is also interesting. But why do you say just in theory?
Well, because in telco sector, a lot of value-added services are being regulated differently. So it really depends how regulators define all these value-added services. That's why I'm saying in theory.
Okay, what about Chinese normal Chinese individuals such as me? Will I be able to, let's say, choose BP's telecom packages instead of China Mobile, China Unicom?
In theory, you can, but in practice, unlikely, because I think it would be very difficult for BT to deploy huge amount of investment in the short run to work with people like you, but it can work with large enterprises.
All right. So in one word, what would you call the significance of this move?
The significance is really about providing competition in sectors which have been dominated by extremely strong producers. It also means, and China wants to liberalize other sectors. So, I mean, so far this year, the focus on China is to what extent market access will be improved. So I would look far beyond the telco sector. So this is a very positive signal.
Okay, let me go to Mike in Southampton. What do you think BT will be able to provide as a special appeal in competition with state-owned companies here in China? Mike?
Well, I think BT is uniquely well placed in that it's been through the public to private transition that I suspect is, and this is a step on that way. So it can advise the three giants, China Mobile, China Telecom, China Unicom, on the steps they need to take in terms of changes in their business model, their business culture, as they come under pressure from the private sector, as BT did when they were privatized back in 1984. It was one of the first industries to be privatized and go through that privatization process, and many have been calling for at least partial privatization of China's major utility sectors for some time, and it looks like the government are taking a big step towards that and in that direction. So I think BT can really help these companies. They shouldn't fear BT. BT can be a willing partner in what is a huge market, and they can all share and enjoy the spoils. So BT really has a lot to offer the public telecoms giants in China, and technically it is also very advanced as well.
Well, BT is undergoing some hard times as it plans to cut about 13,000 jobs over the next 3 years since 2018, the largest scale of layoffs from a British company in history, and the company also moved out of its central London headquarters after almost 150 years to save costs. Its stock lost £8 billion in market value in 2017 after the company admitted to an accounting scandal at its Italian unit. What I wanted to ask Mike is that what does China business mean for this company?
Well, it means a lot. I mean, obviously it's a huge market. They've been desperately trying to internationalize, and they've made mistakes. Their cost cutting has been well documented. To finally get this first license is a tremendous breakthrough. I think they're very, very excited. They see it as a first step towards much more. I think it also signifies very positively very good close working relationships between the British and Chinese governments, who I think have facilitated this deal quite well as well. So I think that's a very, very positive step with Brexit and maybe the UK and China coming closer together for deals like this in other sectors as well.
Yeah, it's a very good question that you mentioned, the possibility of BT striking this deal with its counterparts here in China. Wallace in Geneva, let me ask you this question. For the state-owned enterprises in China, they're very big. They have been dominating this market, and some people are saying China has been fearing foreign direct competition in the Chinese market because Chinese companies need the kind of monopoly that it has to stay dominant in the market. Now that the door is open to whatever degree, or in theory or in practice, we do not know at this moment. Wallace, what kind of competition is BT likely to pose to its domestic counterparts, and how do you look at the significance of this potential move?
Here are two main points. First, the incumbent companies are always prefer to keep their monopoly positions. Every business to take this kind of position. But as Mike just said, that to bring competition, also bring the expertise, that helps. Particularly the competition in providing the multinational companies with a VPN service, which means the cooperation within the company, you can have transport or data process, data transfer in a secure way. I think in these areas, probably BT as a global company provide more trusted, more advanced technology and services, which traditional, let's say China 3 big companies can learn, can also partner with them, and can step up their services so that they can also compete, have an opportunity to compete in international market. I think this could be a step up for 3 big companies. The second point I want to make is that there might be some big bargaining, which means in these mobile services, China opened its door for BT or for other foreign companies, and then China will gain some more concessions or cooperative positions from other companies to allow Chinese equipment companies like Huawei and ZTE to access their infrastructure market, telecommunication infrastructure markets.
So Wallace, you mentioned a very important point. Actually, a lot of people here in China have this kind of speculation that there is a bargain behind this deal because under the kind of hype surrounding Huawei, maybe by opening up its domestic telecoms market, China wants to have some kind of assistance or win a bit of support overseas for Huawei and its product. Sitao, what is your take on this question?
Again, I want to stress the point I made earlier. This is beyond the telco sector. Just in the past few weeks, there have been several seemingly unrelated events. So, for example, Tesla's wholly owned company's investment in Shanghai. Today, Standard & Poor's, the biggest rating company, will have the license in China, not BT. So, if you put all this together, it's really about the greater degree of market access. So I wouldn't just really put that as UK, China. This is really about just fulfilling WTO obligations and taking liberalization, deregulation to the new heights.
Yeah. Well, let's not forget that although BT has had over 10 years of business relations with Huawei, it has always been very cautious. Actually, last December, for instance, the company was reported to be announcing that it is ridding Huawei of the status of bidding for its future 5G project. So BT is not taking a different position than what the U.S. company, the U.S. government, for instance, wants its company to do. So why BT has been given this opportunity? Is there any connection between what China wants to do in terms of Huawei's fate? Again, Sitao, very briefly, please.
Well, after BT, in theory, maybe AT&T can get the same license. Maybe this sector would be open to private companies in China. So I think that's a more logical question to be raised.
Okay, Mike in Southampton, what is your understanding of the situation? Why BT?
I think they've chosen BT because they've been through, they're one of the first companies to go through that public to private transition. So I think they're really preparing the China telecoms industry for a move, certainly a partial privatization move. I think that's why they've been chosen. There may well be, and there is speculation about some sort of reciprocity and a softer stance towards Huawei, which incidentally I think have been treated very badly, and Huawei deserve to be treated much better. But I suspect it's mainly due to BT's experience of that often painful public to private transition.
Okay, and Wallace, what is your understanding of the future of such policy? Are we going to see other companies, regardless of their policy towards Chinese company or towards Chinese telecom products?
I agree with two previous panelists said that in these sectors, China are ready to open because part of its opening up commitment, but also part of its higher demands of consumers for the better internet access services, but including some Chinese multinational companies. I think for the BT or future AT&T, their main clients are big companies, not big companies or these online service providers, the micro multinational companies, but not necessarily the individual consumers. In this area, the competition is going to be fierce, but also big opportunities for both Chinese companies and foreign companies.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Many thanks to Xu Sitao, Chief Economist at Deloitte China, Mike Bastin, Senior Lecturer at the University of Southampton, and Wallace Cheng, Researcher at the German Development Institute. You have been watching The Point with me, Liu Xin. We'll take a short break, and when I come back, another Western media story about China gone haywire. But the targeted Chinese Olympic swimmer is fighting back. What falsehoods were published this time?